But before we go to questions, I want to do some interview preparation. So circumstance, action, result. Okay? How much time do we have? We're doing a lot. We're doing good. Is there a question any one of you does not like, or I would better say fears, when they go to an interview? Yeah?
What is your weakness?
Last workshop. I knew somebody would say that, but they didn't. And I said, well, I bet you every one of you hates this one. So have you got one in mind? An answer for it?
Well, I'm a meticulous person, so it takes time for me to do the job, but when I'm doing the job, it's perfect. I wouldn't leave room for any failures afterwards. But most of the employers would like it.
They don't like that?
They don't like my weakness, because they want the job fast, just like meticulous and fast.
Then I would just revamp, because your answer is very good, and the whole idea is to not ever put a negative in an answer. So I would say that my biggest weakness would be that I'm so meticulous and so attentive to detail that sometimes it just takes a little more time for me to complete a job. Leave it at that. You're not saying I'm slow or any of that. You could even probably find a way to not say, but it should also always be followed with, knowing this, I, okay, yes. And that way they know, okay, it's under control, right? And if it's because they're worried about you meeting a deadline, then say, knowing that I have to meet deadlines, I make sure that I'm always meticulous and attentive to detail, but I always meet the deadline. Okay, so I only give it the amount of time that's required. Anybody else? Question you don't like? When I'm working with students, so we work one-on-one to prepare for an interview coming up. And I send them electronic versions of all of these questions to prepare. Because the question, for instance, why did you choose to do graduate studies? And then they tell you what kind of question it is, education. This comes from one of my favorite books. And it's a long title, but it's something like 201 favorite answers to interview questions, something like that. It's really long though. And they say, okay, this is an education question, and they want you to take it seriously. Your answer may include pursuing a discipline that would enhance your abilities to deal effectively in the marketplace with focused studies and a particular perspective, say engineering. If you're not planning to work in the area of study, speak to the way that the degree would enhance what you've done to pursue, decided to pursue. Like, I knew a guy that did just a bachelor's degree in geography. He worked for Bell Canada, wiring phones. Nothing to do with geography. Actually, it is when you think about it, because you still have to have some sort of mapping going on, right? So if you can let them know that that helped you with that. But this was years ago too, and now you're talking GIS. So that's why I like this. So you would get all of these questions electronically and prepare for them, and then when we sit down the second time, because I've already gone over how to answer them, and you should write your answers out and all of that, I say, so out of all the questions that you worked with, what's the one that scares you the most? And then we deal with that first. Because there isn't any question in here that needs to scare any one of you. Okay? None of them scare me. It's the ones that scare me are the ones I had no idea they were going to ask me. So what isn't in here? One student told me he got asked, what isn't on your resume? I would call that a stress question. And personally, that would just excite me like you wouldn't believe, because wow, what a great question. And I'd say that right to them, and I didn't expect it, so just give me a second. And then I'd relate it back to what enhances what I do anyway. For instance, I mentioned I did a phlebotomy. I was a phlebotomist. Well, I don't know of anybody that likes to have a hole poked in them. So pretty much everybody walking in is nervous. And I have to build a rapport with them so that they trust me and allow me to put a hole in their arm. I have to do that with many of the students I work with. I have to build rapport and get them to tell me the answers to the questions I'm looking for so that we can get down to the nature of what we need to do right away quick and not waste any time, because I'm billing out at, right, how much an hour. My time is worth money. So if there's nothing that scares you off the top, I'm going to ask each of you one question, and I'd like you to answer it in the CAR format. Circumstance, action, result. Does anybody not understand that format? Need any clarification on it at all? Okay. So can I start with you?
I'm kind of confused about that.
The circumstance acting on the result. Okay, so let me find one that I feel. Small talk questions, you don't have to use the car format. So, you know, how about those stamps or flames or whatever? Okay. Describe a situation where you needed to get an understanding of another's point of view before you could get your job done. What problems did you encounter and how did you handle them? So the situation or circumstance, because it used to be situation or task, so it would be called STAR, they're the same thing. So the circumstance in this situation is, well, I was working with Georgian College. We had a pilot project at the Fenbrook Medium Institution. It was my very first day. Sorry, it wasn't my very first day. It was probably the first week of facilitating the program, Employability Skills Program. And I sat, there was a cap of 7 inmates that were allowed in the class. I had 7 in the class. And I got all excited because I was going to do pride stories with them. And I said, oh, I've got an exciting day planned for us today. And I said, we're going to do some pride stories. And I want you to write out all the stories of the times that you were really happy with the outcome of what was going on in your life. And I looked at them, and they all just looked at me like this. And I said, what is it? And they said, we don't have anything we're proud of, and if we did, we're not going to share it with these guys. I'm like, small break. Went and got a video, and I put the video in so they could learn about what was on the video while I thought, okay, how am I going to fix this? So I gathered up a group of people I used to work with at the Employment Resource Center. There was about 6 of us. We met at the library. They gave us a room, and we brainstormed alternatives to this way and how we could make this better for the next time. So it was very successful. A lot of input. Does that answer your question? So you explain the situation, what you did, and the result. They always want to know what you did.